Magic Treehouse, Book 33, Carnival at Candlelight, by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 3, The Grand Lady of the Lagoon. The gondola glided towards a landing at the edge of the canal. As the gondolier tied up the boat, water was sloshing from the canal onto a wide walkway filled with carnival goers. The gondolier reached a gloved hand towards Annie and helped her out of the boat. He then held a hand to Jack. When Jack grabbed it, he was surprised that the gondolier's hand felt small under the white glove, like a kid's hand. As soon as Jack had stepped out of the boat, the gondolier untied the rope, pushed off from the landing, and began to row away. "Bye! Thanks!" called Annie. The two strangers in the white bird masks waved. Jack and Annie watched the gondolier disappear over the choppy waters. Then they looked back at the shore. The carnival crowd was parading up and down wide walkways along the canal. "Hey, look!" said Annie. "There's a bunch of people dressed like us, and like the two people in our gondola." Jack saw a lot of black cloaks, bird masks, funny hats, and ruffled collars. He also saw people dressed as chickens, pirates, and knights. None of the costume people seemed to mind the water spilling over the edge of the canal, soaking their boots and slippers. As Jack and Annie stared at the crowd, a distant bell began to ring. The bell rang 9 times. "I guess it's 9 o'clock," said Jack. Just then another bell began to chime. Jack counted again. This time 10 chimes rang out. "10?" said Jack, puzzled. "So what time is it? 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock?" "Don't worry about that now," said Annie. "I think I see the Grand Lady of the Lagoon." "Where?" Annie pointed to a tall woman at the edge of the parade. She was wearing a black mask. She wore piles of jewelry, a white wig, and a wide hoop skirt. Jack and Annie moved towards the lady. "Excuse me," said Annie. "Hi." The lady looked at Annie. "Hello," she said in a deep man's voice. "Whoa," Jack said, stepping back. Annie laughed. "You're a man?" she said. "Of course," said the man. "But for Carnival, I'm a very beautiful lady, no?" "We're looking for someone called the Grand Lady of—" Annie started, but before she could finish, a giant chicken grabbed the man's hand and pulled him away into the crowd. "Oh, brother," said Jack, looking around. Lots of people were dressed as grand ladies. How are we supposed to know who to visit? "Maybe it's time to use one of Kathleen and Teddy's rhymes," said Annie. "No, we should save our rhymes," said Jack. "Then let's just skip visiting the Grand Lady of the Lagoon for now," said Annie. "What's the next thing Merlin tells us to do?" Jack looked at Merlin's directions and read out loud. "To find out where you need to go, seek out the painter named Tiepolo." "Good, that's clear," said Jack. "Let's see if Tiepolo is in our research book." As the noisy crowd celebrated around them, Jack pulled out the book. He stood near the lantern and looked in the index. "He's here," said Jack. He turned right to the page and read, "Tiepolo was one of the greatest painters of Venice in the 1700s. He painted bright, beautiful oil paintings for palaces and villas." "If that guy's so famous, people must know where he lives," said Annie. "Excuse me," she called down to a clown walking by. "Can you tell us where the painter Tiepolo lives?" "Near the church of San Felice," the clown said. "Thanks," said Annie. "But you won't find him home now," the clown called over his shoulder. "He's in Milan painting." "Where's that?" shouted Jack. "Over a day's ride on horseback," said the clown. Then he disappeared into the crowd. Said Annie. "Do you think Merlin wants us to go to Milan?" "We don't have time," said Jack. "I think we have to skip Tiepolo too." "Yeah," said Annie. "Hey, maybe we should just skip all the stuff and try to find the ruler of the sea on our own. Our letter says he's the only one who can help us save the Grand Lady." "I don't know," said Jack. "In his letter, Merlin tells us to be patient." But Annie was already calling to the pirate passing by. "Sir, do you know where to find the ruler of the sea?" "What?" shouted the pirate. "The ruler! Do you know where he lives?" yelled Annie. "In the palace on St. Margaret's Square," said the pirate. "Where's that?" Annie called, but the pirate had disappeared into the crowd. "I'll look up St. Margaret's Square," said Jack. He turned to the page of their book until he came to a map of Venice. "Oh, cool," he said. Jack loved maps. "Okay, let's see. We are here." He pointed to the walkway along the canal on the map. "And we want to go to St. Mark's Square." He pointed to another place on the map. "It's really close." "Yeah, and it looks like everyone else is headed there too," said Annie. "Come on." "So if we go this way," said Jack. He traced the route with his finger. "Come on, Jack," called Annie. Jack looked up from the map. Annie was already walking with the crowd. Jack closed the book and hurried after her. Soon they came to a huge open square. "Wow," Jack said breathlessly. St. Mark's Square was filled with candlelight and musicians. Acrobats balanced on tight ropes. Boxers boxed. Knights fenced with swords. Clowns walked on tall stilts, raised wheelbarrows, and tried to catch live eels in their mouths. All around the square were candlelight buildings. "Venice is beautiful," said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack. He looked back at their book and he found an illustration of St. Mark's Square. Jack read the description of the building. "The watchtower of St. Mark's Square is the tallest building in Venice. The weather vane on top once helped sailors by showing them which way the wind was blowing." Jack looked up. "I can barely see the weather vane up there," he said. "But I think it's pointing north, so the wind must be blowing from the south." "What about the ruler's palace? Where is that?" asked Annie. Jack read on. "The clock tower is one of the most beautiful towers in the world. On top of the tower, a bell is struck every hour by—" "Jack, skip to the ruler's palace," interrupted Annie. "Please." Okay, said Jack. He read about the palace. "The palace of Venice ruler is one of the most beautiful, splendid structures ever built. It has a great hall where as many as 2,000 nobles once met to discuss city matters. It also holds the city's grim prison cells. Above the palace door is a sculpture of St. Mark showing a book to the winged lion." "There's the palace door," said Annie. Jack looked up from the map. Annie was headed toward a huge door with sculptures of a man and a winged lion above it. Jack closed the book and hurried to catch up to her. A guard was standing by the palace door. The guard wore a uniform and held a rifle. "Wait," Jack whispered. "Is he a real guard, or is that just a costume?" "I'll find out," said Annie. She walked over to the guard. "Excuse me, sir, is the ruler of Venice inside the palace now?" "Begone, clown," the guard said gruffly. "But it's important," said Annie. "We need to talk to him about something." "I said begone," the guard growled. "I am tired of clowns wasting my time." She's not really a clown," said Jack, coming forward. "We're on a mission. Go, both of you, or else," roared the guard. He held up his rifle. "He is definitely not wearing a costume," thought Jack. "Okay, sorry." He and Annie moved away from the palace entrance. "What a grouchy guy," said Annie. "He'll never let us in," said Jack. "Maybe it's time to use one of Teddy and Kathleen's rhymes," said Annie. "Maybe we should turn into ducks. The guard wouldn't mind a couple of ducks." "No," said Jack. "We have to save our rhymes." "Well, how do we get inside?" asked Annie. "Patience," said Jack. "Remember." Before he could finish, Annie broke in. "Hey, look!" 2 clowns on stilts were dancing around the guard. One grabbed the guard's rifle and tossed it to the other. "Hey!" the guard yelled. "Give it back!" "Now's our chance," said Annie. "Quick!" She ran to the entrance and slipped through the door. "Oh, no! Oh, man!" said Jack. While the guard chased after the 2 clowns on stilts, Jack rushed to the doorway of the palace and slipped inside too.